Henry.
Hey everybody, welcome to Exploring the Wine Glass, sponsored by Dristina Wines. I'm your host, Lori, a UC Davis winemaking graduate and a WSET Level 2 graduate. And today on Allure of the Poor, I am sitting down with Breanna Hamilton, owner of Rancho Roscoe Vineyards and Rescued Heart Cellars. So sit back, unscrew, uncork, or savor your favorite bottle. Grab a glass and enjoy the conversation. So welcome, Breanna. How you doing?
Good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. And we've got, that's Henry?
This is Henry.
Hi,
Henry.
Henry's tired.
Hi,
No,
Henry.
look at that face. Look at that face. So we've actually been trying to get this interview going for quite some time. So I'm just really happy that it came through. We both have had some not so great situations occurring that are pushing it off. So I'm glad that finally the stars have aligned and the dogs have barked in the right direction, and we can get this going. So first off, I did read your story on the website, and before we get going, I have to say, I know this has to be such a rough day for you. We lost our Draco in May almost 10 years ago, and not a day goes by that I don't think of him, that I literally can break down on any given moment. And I carry my, he was named after a dragon, so I have my nice little dragon on me at all times. And I know this is a rough day for you, so we want to give him the best memory and let everybody know what an incredible dog he was, and how, even though you only had him for a short time, his legacy lives on. So my condolences and virtual hug for animal lovers around the world.
Thank you.
Now, on your website, you have a very interesting way of telling his story. It's all through pictures. And the first thing you said is, we tried to condense it, we tried to do it, but I have to tell you, I think it's beautiful the way you did it. So if it's not too difficult, can you give us a little background on Georgie and what it was like in those 7 short weeks that you had that beautiful boy?
Yeah. So part of the reason that it's all photos is because when I first went to put it on the website, I couldn't write the story, and I couldn't handle it, and I would start doing it, and I would be like a puddle on the floor. And so eventually I was like, okay, I really need to get this started, and I can't do it. And so a lot of those are like photos that I had shared to my personal Facebook to update my family, and then I just took the snippets and reworded just a little bit so that, you know, and even to this day, I've left it almost exactly how it is, because anytime I start to work on it, I start to cry. So I probably will cry today, but that's okay.
I will cry right along with you.
Yeah. I
was crying looking at the photos and reading the story. I was crying.
Yeah. So Henry was a puppy. He's a very large dog now, but before he was a little bit smaller. We were looking for a friend for him, and somebody who had, you know, somebody who had like the same amount of energy. So we had been looking to rescue. We only rescue. It's very important to us. We had a couple puppies fall through. It's very difficult to rescue a puppy because everyone wants one, and I understand that. We had just had a bunch of seniors with lots of health problems, and so I said, puppies this time, puppies. So that would have been Friday night. We were sitting on the couch. I was perusing, you know, rescue websites, and I saw a picture of George, and I went, this is the one. Walked up to my husband, and I said, here you go. This is the one. And he's like, well, you know, we'll go. And I was like, no, This is the one. Tomorrow we're going, and it's about 45 minutes away from us. And we've worked with that rescue. It's the Humane Society of Santa Cruz County, and we've worked with them before. We had a bottle that benefited them, and we used to do an adopt-a-thon with them every year. So I told my husband, I said, bright and early, we're going to get there before they open, and I'm going to get that dog. And he was like, oh, boy, okay. So we did. We got there about 10 or 15 minutes before they opened. We walked in. They know who we are. I told them who I wanted. We had George out the door in about 10 minutes. And we were in the car. And one of the first photos on the website is him in the car on the way home. And he came with the name Winston. And we didn't really care for it. And so we were thinking on the way home what to name him. And I wanted Henry, of course, is a strong name. His name is Henry David, and I wanted something similar. And so we went through a couple names, and my husband finally said George Bailey, and I said, that's perfect. I love it. And it actually ended up being really perfect. So we came home. We did, normal puppy stuff. He came to the winery the next day, or that morning, actually, everything was normal. We did normal puppy stuff. When I look back at the photos of his very first days, I still had Christmas decorations in the house because it was January. It's like the beginning of January, and I'm pretty slow to take down decorations. So there's a picture of him chewing on the Christmas tree and like pulling, and they're so cute. And probably 2 or 3 weeks in, 2 weeks in, I think, I started noticing that something just wasn't quite right. And we took him to the vet, and I saw somebody that I don't normally see. And she went, puppy, he's fine. And I was like, I don't know about that, but okay. So that was Thursday. On Saturday, we had a group of veterinarians in the tasting room, and everyone loves dogs in the tasting room. It's part of what makes us us. And so they had him. They were sitting, over by a table and loving on him. And she came up to me towards the end of their tasting, and she goes, "Honey, I need you to go to the vet." And I said, "I know. I already did. I know something's wrong. I don't know what it is. They told me he was fine." And she goes, "No, you need to go." And I said, okay. So by the end of the day, we went home. He went and he laid in Henry's kennel. And he wasn't kennel trained at the time. So kennel was like not something he was into. He was part beagle, and so he would scream. I have videos of it. It's adorable. So he wouldn't move, and I said, okay, time to go. So I took him to the hospital. They still didn't know what was wrong with him. They said that, his stomach was full. They were going to get him to, pass what was in his tummy. So they pumped him full of fluids. Well, I got a call at about 3 in the morning, frantic. He's not going to the bathroom. His kidneys aren't working properly. And so we went and visited in the morning. I'm really far away from everything, so that particular vet is an hour and 20 minutes from me. So we went back in the morning, visited with him. We still weren't sure what was going on and what we were going to do about it. We visited, and then we came home because they said they were going to keep him. Don't know what we're doing yet. Okay. Later that night, they called, and I remember I was sitting in the living room, and she kind of explained what was going on, but it's like you're in a movie, and things are moving, but you're like, okay. So she said, his kidneys aren't working, there's nothing we can do. And everything's in slow-mo. And she says, but you can go to UC Davis in San Diego for dialysis. And I said, I said, are you telling me that if we don't do that, he's going to die? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, we'll leave in the morning. And she said, no, now. You have to leave now. And so we were trying to figure out, if, you know, it's 8 hours for us to get to San Diego, which isn't so bad. But we were trying to figure out, you know, if we were going to fly, if we were going to drive. We ended up driving. We got there at about 4 in the morning. The drive was horrifying because there's nothing between Tucson and San Diego. So if anything was to happen, they gave us, I had to check his blood sugar every hour, and they gave us stuff just in case. And so we got there at about 4 in the morning, San Diego time. They got him into dialysis almost immediately. He was in dialysis all day long. And then he went to the ICU at night. And then that was the first few days. And then, the first few days, they're like, don't know what's wrong, don't know how to fix it, but this is what we're going to do in the meantime. So to make a very long story a little bit shorter, sorry. The first few weeks he was in the hospital, he got dialysis every day. And his creatinine levels were extremely high, and then they'd go down, of course, because of dialysis. And what we were looking for was his body to heal itself. And so the creatinine would go up and then down, and then when it went back up again, we were wanting it to go a little bit slower so that it would show that his body was functioning again. And it did. And every single time we got test results back, it looked great. And we really thought that everything was going to be fine. So at about 2 weeks, he was able to get out of the ICU, and he came to stay in the hotel with us at night, which was really nice. And we have lots of great memories. San Diego is really super dog friendly, so lots of restaurants were thrilled to have us inside, which was really nice. And the hotel was super nice. We stayed in Pacific Beach mostly, which was nice because you're right by the beach. He couldn't walk, but that's okay. We still had fun. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Henry jumped off the bed and he's got that ACL. Like, no, don't do that. Sorry.
Is he okay?
He's all right. He'll be fine. So everything just looked great. And really, for a month, we were in San Diego. This is what my life was like. We devoted it all to him. Everything else was put on hold. At about 4 weeks, we went and talked with the nephrologist, and she said, they did another ultrasound, and she said that there wasn't anything that we were going to be able to do. And I still fought, and I said, no, what about long-term dialysis? Humans get long-term dialysis. What about him? Because he was only, at that point, he was just shy of 4 months. And so it's difficult to give up on a dog that's a baby, And she said, well, that's, of course, that's not really reasonable. And I said, what about a transplant? We can do that. And she said, well, we could, but dogs don't take to transplants as well as cats do. And, she's like, you'd have to go to Philadelphia. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't even care how much it costs. I will do it. And she started crying, and she said, there's just really nothing that we can do. And so we decided on one last dialysis treatment. Did I mention that this was my birthday?
Oh.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So we came home, and for the first time, we did normal puppy stuff, and we weren't worried about him walking on the ground and getting any, getting sick from viruses or whatever. And we went to the lake, and we kayaked, and we walked around the vineyard, and we enjoyed, and we chased chickens, and played with Henry. And one of my favorite photos is we were playing Life, and he's on the table with us. And I have a video clip. I asked him if he wanted to be the banker, and he reached out and grabbed the money and started chewing it up. And I was like, okay, banker's prerogative. And so today I shared for the first time what the day was like when we said goodbye, which I have never ever done before. It goes something like this. He was fine in the morning. They were outside playing in the vineyard, Henry, my husband, and George. And we had one of those like a duck call, and it makes a funny noise. And so we were doing that, and there's a video of them, what is that? They were freaking out. It's very cute. And I went back inside, and I remember watching through the window in the house and thinking everything was normal and everyone was happy. And my husband came in the house about 15 minutes later crying, and he said, "It's time." So we all got in the car. We went to the vet, and my vet's amazing. And they already knew what was going on, and they took us into a room, and we said goodbye, and I remember, I can feel it. I couldn't let go, and I was like screaming almost, and I can only imagine what everyone else in the vet clinic was thinking, because I was really extremely loud, and I couldn't let go, and it felt like forever and no time, all in the same breath. And eventually Chris pulled me up and took me to the car, and Henry was in the car with us, and we went home, and I did nothing for weeks, and then I had to go back to work, and I worked for 2 weeks, and then I said, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm done. And so I trained somebody for the tasting room, and I took 4 or 5 months off, and eventually Chris said to me, okay, you really do have to go back to work now, and on to the happier stuff. I said, okay, but if you want me to go back to work, then I'm going to do a George label. And he said, okay. And that, we had already done that. We had a bottle called Pound Hound with our dog Baba on it that went to the Humane Society in Nogales. And so I kind of took the idea from that, and then I took it one step further, and I wanted his face on the logo, and anything with that logo would be not-for-profit. So we started with that. In the summer, I started working on that, and in the fall, I had it all rolled out, and then that was good for a while. That was enough for a while, and then I said, actually, we should probably just start a nonprofit, and then I can give grants out, because I hadn't decided how I wanted to distribute the money that we raised. And it was really important to me that it went to something similar to what George had going on. You know, spay and neuter is obviously super important. It's really important to us, but it's not what I wanted the money to be spent on. I wanted the money to be spent on animals that wouldn't normally be saved because there's not enough money for it.
Right.
And like extra special things. And I kind of, I mean, we have 1 million dogs, and so I knew that medical care was expensive, but this particular thing, George's stuff was just medical stuff, not hotels or travel or food or anything like that while we were gone, was about $30,000. And so I wanted the money to be spent specifically. And so at some point I decided nonprofit. And I told my husband, and it took him a couple days to adjust. And, not that he's not super giving, because he is. And so I started getting the ball rolling on that. And I got my nonprofit status in August of 2019. And to be perfectly honest, they were crazy fast. It was less than 2 months, less than 2 months from when I filled out the application to when I got my approval. And I was like, whoa, so fast, because it normally takes like 13 months at least. They did change the process a little bit, so that's fantastic. And then we really started getting going. So then I started selling, you know, merchandise in the tasting room with his logo on it, and then, you know, like this shirt was one of our nonprofit shirts. I don't have it anymore. This was the last one I took it. And then when I got the nonprofit status, I could start fundraising through Facebook, and like all of our tips are donated. So I make just in tips in a month, it's like $500. People are extremely generous. It's really nice.
Probably more generous to tip knowing that it goes to the animals than to a human that's in a tasting room.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't ever encourage tips before, and now I really do. Sorry, not sorry. But it's really nice. And then we have a wine. It's called It's a Wonderful Life. Obviously. And my girlfriend, she mentioned it shortly after George passed away, that was the perfect name for a bottle, because he did have a wonderful life, even though it was short. And had he gone to somebody else, he probably wouldn't have had any life. You know, it would have ended too soon. And so right now, I did, for this interview, I did the books to see how much we had raised to date. And we're about $900 shy of $10,000.
Wow.
And I'm
incredible.
Thrilled. And my goal is to give out, by the end of the year, to have $20,000 raised, and to give out 4 $5,000 grants. And I'm emotional, sorry. I'm excited, and I say it all the time when I share stuff on Facebook, but he's not really gone, because we get to do this. And like, my everyday life involves him, and yeah, I would have preferred to have him, but I probably wouldn't do this much for rescue if he hadn't passed away, which means that he has a huge impact.
And so many other animals.
Yeah. So, the Rescued Heart Sellers is the nonprofit, but we also do a nonprofit event called Support a Rescue. It's once a month, and with that, we've raised an additional $16,000 in a year.
Wow.
So that's just beyond like what I even thought was possible, and it's it's incredible, and it totally makes my, as you know, winery is not the easiest job. It's a lot of work, especially we're 100% estate, and so we farm as well as everything else, and so this this makes it worthwhile for me to push through and work hard and make a difference, and that's totally what I want, and I intend to do more and more and more as time goes on.
And it really is beautiful. You know, I mean, I get what you're saying. You would much prefer to have him growing up with you, but he is with you, and not only is he with you, but every single animal that's going to be helped because of what you're doing is helped because of what he went through and what you went through. And I mean, we do a lot with rescues also.
Yes, I saw.
Draco was not a rescue, but Vegas is a rescue, and we do everything we can to help rescues.
Yeah.
And you want to make a difference for another animal. You want, and like you said, if probably anybody else had adopted George when that first vet said, I don't know what's the matter with him, we can't do anything, that would have been done. And he only was with you for 7 weeks, but those 7 weeks were probably the most amazing. He was a puppy. He was loved, and that's they know what love is. And so I want to say thank you, because whenever I see somebody who does something for animals, it makes it's a better human being because of animals. If everybody could just act like their dogs,
Yeah.
the world would be an incredible place. So thank you for giving him such a wonderful home for those 7 weeks, and for everything you're doing for every other animal that you can help, But before we completely soak both of our homes here, I do want to talk about a little bit more about you, and what else you're doing. So you were actually born on an Air Force base, but ended up in Arizona, right? Like, how do you choose? I mean, not that there's anything wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Arizona, but how do you choose? How did you choose that was where you wanted to be? And then how do you choose a winery to be there? Because Arizona is kind of just up and coming of being known to even have wine.
Right. Well, me personally, I came to the winery story a little bit later. My husband started it. So I was born in Phoenix on Luke. But then my dad actually retired on Fort Huachuca, which is southern Arizona.
Oh, okay.
We moved all over the world and then moved back, essentially. And then I never left. We live, where we live is called Sonoyta, Elgin, the area, and it's incredibly beautiful. It's nice. It's not hot. We're at 5,000 feet, so Napa's actually warmer than we are.
Okay.
So it's beautiful. My husband, on the other hand, came from Palos Verdes, and then he went to college at ASU, and he was living in Cave Creek, and he got a piloting job and wanted a backup plan because it's not necessarily the most stable job if something happens. And so he and his late wife Paula came camping down in this area and fell in love with the area. And there was a little bit of wine out here already. And he had been considering, hey, dogs, sorry. He had been considering winery versus brewery. And on paper, the winery looked better. And we found, or he found rather, a large plot. It's 300 acres of state land.
Oh, wow.
That we could plant on. I don't have 300 acres, but
I thought you had like 24. I was like, oh, I read that.
I have 24 acres. I have 24 acres. We just found this big piece of land that had lots of potential, and so my husband is very. He goes bigger, he goes home. There's no in between. Everything is big or not at all. And so he dove in. He had no training. He took some so this would have been in 1999. He bought the land, and then in the early 2000s was when we planted, had a first harvest. Our tasting room opened in 2006. So in that time, he would have done some correspondence, VHS correspondence classes to UC Davis. So he's all self-taught, with trial and error, and then lots of books. The winery is chock full of books that we still consult, actually. And so at the time that our tasting room opened, we were the 4th winery down here. This year, I think there's 17 now, just right in our little area. So it's gotten bigger and bigger. I came along in 2014. We started dating. He wanted me to work in the tasting room before we started dating, and I said no. I didn't like wine. And I'm not. I'm an introvert that can extrovert, and so the tasting room is taxing. And so eventually he wore me down, and then we started dating, and then of course the rest is history. I
thought you met in a tasting room. I thought you met in a tasting room.
Oh, we met. I was waitressing here at a little restaurant when I was 17. We met then, which was many years before we started dating. Let's see, that would have been, I think we started dating when I was 24, 25, somewhere in there. And I just turned 31. So
you've known each other for a long time before.
Yeah, we were friends for a long time.
Before the farm wore you down.
Yeah. Growing in Arizona has its challenges, but it's really no different than anywhere else. I mean, growing in Champaign has its challenges, doesn't mean they don't do it,
Right. So I wanted to ask you about that, and actually that's the exact wording I have is, every growing region has its positives and negatives, and no matter how great the region is, for every good, there's a bad. You just hope that there's more good than bad. The thing I always hear about Arizona, and I am horrible at geography, so I don't know where in relation to this region or whatever, is those dust storms. the wind that comes up and picks up the sand.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have those things?
No.
No.
So
Okay.
Arizona is crazy diverse for such a small state. So if you're looking at Arizona, the tippy top is of course like Flagstaff. Just south of Flagstaff, maybe an hour, there's a grape growing region. They don't really grow that many grapes up there, but there's a region up there. It's called the Verde Valley.
Okay.
So they're higher, but they're a little bit warmer than we are in the summertime. To be honest, I don't know a whole lot about them. And then if you go an hour even south of that, you're in Phoenix. So the haboobs, the major dust storms, are mostly in Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
And then you're going to go an hour and a half south of Phoenix again, and then you'll be like in the Tucson area. We kind of went this way.
Oh, okay.
the Tucson area. So Tucson is even cooler than Phoenix by like 10 or 15 degrees depending on the day, and they're a little bit higher. And then you continue to go south, and then you've hit Sonoy to Elgin. So we're about, as the crow flies, we're probably 30 miles from the border, and we're at 5,000 feet. So in the summertime, our nighttime we're like mid-60s, low 70s, somewhere in there. During the daytime, we are on average like high 80s, low 90s.
Oh, very little variation at all.
Yeah, we do have 100-degree days, but they're rare. We have a few a year, which is good. We live here because I don't want to be in 100 degrees. And then in the wintertime, like now, for example, the days are in the 50s, and the nights, actually right now, this very second, it is cold. The nights are in the low 20s, which is like low to mid 20s, which is pretty cold for us. Average in the wintertime is, low to mid 30s, even high 30s.
You do hit freezing. You get snow. You get
Yeah. So the snow doesn't typically stay. We get a couple inches here and there. The weather has to be just right for us to get snow. We don't get a whole lot of winter precipitation, so normally it doesn't snow because of that. We did get snow this year already, one time, twice, maybe. Last year we had record-breaking snow. It snowed a foot in one fall, right where we are, and then about 10 minutes from where we are in Sonoy proper, 18 inches.
Wow. So, and how long did the snow stay around? Did it affect the vines?
3 days.
So how were the vines? How were the vines at that point? Were they protected?
They were dormant, so they were mostly fine. Younger vines, of course, didn't enjoy it as much, and I'm sure that people lost younger vines because that's not normal for us for it to be that cold for that long with snow. But on the bright side, snow is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing for us because it melts, and it melts evenly. So the ground gets saturated, which is great. So we like that. So our typical growing season starts very soon. We will start bud break in a few weeks, probably the end of March. I would prefer like into April, but that doesn't normally happen. It has to be pretty cold consistently. It has to be pretty cold consistently, which doesn't normally happen. Today is sunny and bright and windy as all get out, and it was like in the mid 50s. And that's even warm enough for the vines to go, oh, this is nice because we have so much sun, you know.
Right.
So as bud break goes on, we start monsoon, which is afternoon rain, torrential rain, starts second week of July-ish.
Okay.
And we're totally fine with that for the most part, unless it hails, all the way up until late August. By late August, my Chardonnay and Viognier are ready to harvest, and rain means pushback harvest, which means rot.
Right.
One of the challenges of the area is monsoon season. It's great in the beginning, and we love it as not farmers. But when we get into ready to harvest, there's been lots of years where we've lost a ton of fruit because we've had a big hailstorm. It's not uncommon to have large hail with an afternoon monsoon. So if you're not familiar with monsoon, it is beautiful and crazy and interesting. The morning will be bright and sunshiny. Midday, we start to get a couple clouds. Late afternoon, it's like ominous. And then it rains for, could be 10 minutes, it could be an hour and a half, and it just dumps until there's no more. And then it does the next thing, you know, it does it over the next day.
So that is happening that's happening, I'm sorry, after you don't have that concern during during fruit set or anything like that. It's happening after.
No, the problem with, you know, one of our challenges with that is that we are at 5,000 feet. So I get frost all the way until May 15th. So that is a hard thing. We've been good the last couple years. This is a particularly cold winter, so it will be interesting to see how this season goes. But like last year, year before, it was about 10% that we lost in May. And last year, we had frost on May 21st, which is the latest we've ever seen it. So that is a challenge for us. And then like I said, the monsoon is a challenge. But other than that, it's not so bad. One of the most common questions we get is, but Arizona is so dry and hot. And we are dry, and we're not really hot, but, you know, Arizona is hot. We definitely irrigate, but I would argue that every vineyard is irrigated. So
that was good. You must have a little psychic vibe with me, because that was going to be my next question is, you know, do you need to irrigate, and do you irrigate? You know, are you irrigating on a regular pattern, or is it, okay, we haven't had a monsoon in a few days, so we're going to irrigate?
So we'll start watering soonish. Now we kind of do a little bit of watering now, and then when we get into where we're getting real rain, we don't water as much, but we still water. The one thing that a lot of people don't consider is that vines that were trained with drip go straight down.
Right.
Vines that were trained with flood or rain go out, and they don't go very deep. And so the rain is fantastic for us, but I still have to water because the vines are trained to get their water that way. So.
Right, so also cause the problem with if the roots are going out and not deep, when you do have those snowstorms, it's going to cause a more of an issue if the roots are not settled deeply.
Right, and our roots are deep, so which is which is good in this
Good.
case.
Right. You don't want to rely on that.
No, we certainly, someone asked recently if we, dry farming is a thing because in California, there's more and more concern with water. And they asked me if I dry farmed and I laughed. I'm like, that's not going to happen. And even in California, a lot of times when they say they dry farm, they do, but they still water.
Right.
They
It's
just use
about how much.
the minimum amount of water possible.
Right. Right.
Which is good. I think that's good. I just can't do that.
So at your winery, is it just you and your husband, Chris, or do you have employees also?
So it's just us. I do have somebody for the tasting room who works when I'm not there. So normally 1 weekend a month. When I've extroverted to my maximum extent, and I go, hey, can you work the tasting room? That'd be great. Anne is her name. She works probably 1 weekend a month. But otherwise, we do not have a lot of help. My brother-in-law does some work in the vineyard. And this year and last year was the first time that we've had to hire help because my husband had back surgery 3 years ago and was told, stop lifting barrels. Good luck with that. Stop working in the vineyard 12 hours a day. Good luck with that. And so we've started, to hire help with pruning and, weeds and stuff like that. But for a very, very long time, it was just 2 people who did the bulk of the work, except for during harvest because you can't do it all by yourself during harvest. But
Absolutely.
So it's a change for us this year, and especially with our accident, it is very strange not to do everything ourselves.
Right. Everybody asks us, so how big do you want to go? And my comment is, I don't want to go big enough that I'm not the person that is behind the tasting room when I want to be behind the tasting room. Because I understand what you're saying, but I'm a huge extrovert. There is not a piece of introvert. There is not a cell of an introvert in my body. So I flourish when I'm doing something like that. We go to pouring events. And, I'm the one talking to everybody, and my husband is standing there with his arms across his chest. I'm like, stop doing that. People don't come to you when your arms across your chest.
Yes.
So, I know we don't have a tasting room now because I don't know how, that was another question, is how is Chris handling still being a pilot and doing all of this stuff? Because we do have full-time jobs, but I do all of the social media. I do pretty much all of the selling. I do all that. And my job, I shouldn't say this, but I do. It's like I know my job so well that there's really not too much prep for it. So it's like all of my in-between time is kind of dedicated to what I need to do for that. And then when I'm on for work. And then, so is he still flying also?
Yeah, he does actually. So he flies a 7.5, and he does mostly Hawaii. And what he is going to be 57 this year. I think 56. So he's pretty senior, which means that he gets to sort of pick and choose what he wants to do. And so what he does is an on-call schedule. So he's on call, 4 days a week on average. And then he may get a trip and he may not get a trip. The nice thing about when he flew an Airbus, he flew a lot. But when he got moved over to the 7.5, he flies like 2 trips a month, and a Hawaii trip it's considered 3 days. It's considered a 3-day trip, but it's 48 hours. He leaves and he's back in 48 hours. And Hawaii is fantastic. So, and then the nice thing is that he budgets all of his vacation time for harvest.
For harvest,
So,
right.
so he generally has most of September off, and then like we can sort of finagle getting part of October off, which is really nice. So when he first started the winery, yeah, it was a big challenge when he was flying 4 or 5 trips a month. But now it's a lot easier. And to be honest, he hasn't flown, well, because he's not been able to. He's not been cleared to fly. But he hasn't flown since, like, the beginning of November. We had a good chunk of November off. We went on vacation, our post-harvest vacation. And then beginning of December, we had our accident, and then, so he hasn't flown, and he'll go back to work. He wants to go back to work in about a week, and I said, I think that's maybe not the best idea. So it's.
Well, I completely understand that. I've only been out of work for 2 weeks, and
yeah.
I'm like, you know, and the people I work with are sending messages, oh, it must be so nice not to be here. I'm like, all I'm doing is sitting on my ass all day. Like, I can't do anything. You know, I'm like, ooh, I'm sitting inside. I go outside to get warm, you know, and I sit on my butt out there. And then when it gets too hot out there, I move back inside, you know. I don't know how I'm going 8 weeks without doing this, but
I totally get it. We're always glutton for punishment. We have, like, all of our friends wonder how we do everything that we do. And I'm like, so for the last, 2 months, we're like jokingly watching General Hospital, and we're like, okay, this daytime TV is the worst. Let's not do this ever again.
Yes. All right, so let's go back to the Rescued Heart Cellars. So as you mentioned, it is a not-for-profit brand, and it's dedicated to raising money for rescue dogs, but I think now you've opened it, it's not just dogs anymore, correct? It's animals?
Oh, yeah. No, it's pretty much, so the way we're going to work it is we'll have like a grant process, and you'll be able to, any rescue, it has to be a rescue in Arizona, will be able to submit an application for like any animal, and then it'll probably be first come, first serve, because I have this big of a heart.
Now, did you come up with your grant application, or is there a very specific thing that you had to submit in order to have your status, your not-for-profit status?
So, I think I know what you're asking. The federal nonprofit status, I had to apply for and do my paperwork and like explain what we were going to do and all that stuff. And I got that. But the grant process, I have not worked out all the kinks yet, and that would be because generally it takes 13 months to have an approval for a nonprofit, and mine came back in like 2.
So you weren't quite prepared.
I didn't have everything done yet. And so I haven't decided exactly what the criteria will be of the grant process. But to be honest, I work with so many rescues that it will probably be, I'll see a plea on Facebook, and I'll go, hey, fill this out, and we'll give you the money. It will probably be less formal than I'm thinking it will be.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. So that was going to be my next question is, so how does a rescue group apply? Basically, right now, they just need to contact you. And they do.
Yeah, they would just send me an email. We won't, until I reach the goal of $20,000, I won't give anything away yet.
Okay.
So by the end of the year, that'll give me time to like work out the kinks and and like have enough money raised to do stuff with. So One of the things that I didn't mention, which I think is important, is I don't have any administrative fees or costs, I guess the word would be,
Right.
for the nonprofit. So anything that anyone donates goes to a rescue in the end. I don't buy envelopes or anything. Rancho Rosa does all the our for-profit winery does all the money side of stuff, and then donates to the nonprofit. So literally every penny that we get is spent on giving it away.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, we did talk about that you had 24 acres. You have 12 and a half under vine. What do you produce? What if somebody wanted to go buy the Rescued Heart Cellars bottles? What can they buy? What is it?
So we actually have 24 acres under vine right now. Total. I'll have to update the website, I see. We have 14 different varieties-ish. I'm going to put that ish on there. So we have like Chardonnay, which is our Rescue White, is a Chardonnay, which is one of our nonprofits. We also have Rescue Red, which is Cabernet, and Cabernet is what we're known for. So I have like 4 or 5 Cabernets. And then we have a wine called Hound Dog. That's also a cab from 2011 right now. And then It's a Wonderful Life is my favorite varietal. It's Primitivo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then on the winery side, Rancho Rosa side, you know, we do a GSM. We have a right bank and a left bank Bordeaux style right now. We also have a port style, and we grow actually Touriga Nacional specifically for that.
Wow. I said, wow, a Touriga Nacional. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then we've got, I have a Chardonnay Viognier, and then we do a lot of, Syrah. I have Syrah. That's the other one. Those are our big ones. And then I have a lot of smaller lots of like blending grapes. So like Mourvedre, I just have a little bit of Petit Verdot. I just have a little bit of Malbec. I have a little bit of. So.
Okay, so we all know that it's not a winery unless there's a winery dog, okay, or in your case, several dogs. And at the beginning, we got to see a little bit of Henry David. But if you can just tell us their own little story. So Henry David is there. People can visit him on Fridays at the tasting room.
Yeah. So when he's fully healed, he's in the tasting room the most because he's the calmest and the biggest. He's about 100 pounds of solid love. So he's normally. Like Fridays and Sundays, we have him in the tasting room. He's extra sweet. He loves kids specifically, and women. He's a sucker. We have a bench in the tasting room, and only for women. He'll go sit and love you on the bench. It's really cute. And then we have the littlest one is Arthur. He's basically in the tasting room all the time because he's the easiest. He's tiny.
I love his underbite. He's got that little underbite smile.
I know. He's way too cute. He's everyone's favorite. And the funny thing is that he's more like me. Henry loves everybody. He will let you love them. He will let you love him, and he'll love you for hours. Arthur's like, oh, hey, what's up? Okay, bye. Really, if you have food, he'll love you for a while. But like, he really has to connect with you to love you. And of course, it's always everyone's favorite because teeny and cute, and he's got that major underbite.
Wait, they want to pick him up then.
We also have Leo, and Leo is turning out to be a vineyard dog, not a winery dog. So he doesn't come to the tasting room anymore.
Okay.
He, like I said, we do all rescues, and every dog, like every human, is different, and they have different experiences. And Leo is a healer, and he's a little bit more high-strung, and that translates to fear a lot of times. And so in the tasting room, he gets afraid, and then he barks or growls, and so he hangs out with Dad in the vineyard. And then when nobody comes in and we're like working on the bookwork or whatever, then he comes and hangs out with us. So, and I actually have a fourth dog who we're fostering, actually. His name is Freddie, and he's a pit bull, and he's adoptable, and he's very sweet. We call him French and Freddie.
Is he going to be a foster failure?
No.
No.
No. He was going to be, but Freddie needs a home with no other animals.
Oh, okay.
And I have a lot of animals. So beyond him, I have 3 dogs, and then, who I'm sure you can hear right now. And then I have 2 cats right now, and I also have 2 pot-bellied pigs, and chickens. I have a whole farm. So he gets a little jealous. He just needs his own dedicated family that he doesn't have to share. So we put him up for adoption a few weeks ago, and I'll start advertising him a little bit more. But he is typical pit bull. He sits on the couch, he licks you, he just wants to snuggle. He's super duper sweet, and he'll pretty much let you do anything to him, and he loves kids. He gets so excited for kids. It's very sweet.
One of the things I've noticed about pitties is that you can't keep your arms at your side with pitties, because if you keep your arm by your side, they're constantly shoving their head under your arm so that they can get here. So, so you might as well just sit with your arm up.
Yeah, like, we'll just put this here for you. Yeah.
There's something. They love to slide their heads in there, and then just, I don't know if it's listening to your heartbeat or what, but they love to rest their head on your chest and just stare at you and lick you if you look at them.
Oh yes, Freddie is a kisser. He'll kiss you to death. I mean, when we first got him, he wouldn't stop licking, and I went, okay, so we're going to have to figure this one out, because, like, a couple licks is okay, but, like, constant licking is a little much for me, buddy. So we've done lots of training, and he is super smart and super eager to learn.
We have in Fresno, or in Sanger, I should say, there's a pit bull rescue, and every year, and it might be twice a year, they team up with a brewery that's in town, and they do pints for pitties. And you go in and you buy a glass, and it's got the beautiful pit face on it, and all of the proceeds of the day go to the rescue. And you sit down. They take the barley and they make seats all over the place, and you just sit, and it's like pity heaven. It's like they are just all over the place, like the rescue. We never miss it. We will, like, if we have something and it's that day, we're like, no, we'll do that later. We're going to the Pints for Pitties. So it is it's a great event. So before we move on to the game, why don't you share with everybody where they can find you on social media, where do you spend the most amount of time on social media, and how's the best way to contact you about the rescue?
So we have a Facebook. Our Facebook is Rancho Rosa Vineyards and Rescued Heart Sellers. We also have a second Facebook for Rescued Heart Sellers so that we can accept donations on there, because I have to be a nonprofit. It had to be a separate entity, and so we did it that way. But if I share, you know, on our Rescued Hearts, it gets shared on our Rancho Rosa page as well.
Okay.
So either one, you're going to see everything. We also have an Instagram, and generally I post on Instagram, and then it moves to Facebook. So any platform, you're going to get everything. Our Instagram is Rancho Rosa and Rescued Hearts. And then the best way to get in contact with me is probably email, which is tastingroom@ranchorosa.com, double S on the Rosa. And then our website has lots of information, and I'm not going to lie, there's lots of pictures of cute dogs, so you should probably go look at it. I actually had someone come into the tasting room and go, "So, you like dogs, huh?" And I was like, "How could you tell?" He goes, "Well, your website is kind of covered in dogs." And I was like, "Good. I'm glad that you think that. That's what I was going for." So our website is it's ranchorosa.com or rescuedheartsellers.org. It's the same website. And I think that's what you asked me for.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. So are you ready to play the little game of opposites?
Sure.
It's super simple. No right or wrong answer. I just say two things, and whichever sounds better to you, you just answer that. So it's a piece. I'll start off with non-wine terms, and then I go to wine terms. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, night or day?
Night.
Sunset or sunrise?
Ooh, sunset.
Black or white?
Black.
Walk or run?
Walk.
Food or drink?
Food, I guess.
Old world or new world?
Old world.
Sweet or dry?
Dry.
Red or white?
Red.
Bubbles or still?
Bubbles.
Oak or stainless?
Oak.
Drink now or drink later?
Probably drink later.
Blend or varietal?
That's a tough one for me. I guess I would say varietal. I like everything, so.
That's a good answer. Vintage or non-vintage?
Vintage.
Cork or screw cap?
Screw cap.
Napa or Sonoma?
Ugh. Sonoma.
Commercial or indigenous?
Indigenous?
Bordeaux or Rhone?
Bordeaux.
And warm climate or cool climate?
Cool.
I see, piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your story and for being amazing to George and allowing his memory to live on, and for honestly helping all of these other animals. You know, I hope you know from our social media and everything, we're all about the same thing. You know, animals are near and dear to us. And give me a whiny cause, and we're there.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, and I appreciate you taking the time off of your busy schedule to share your story. And I look forward to maybe one time I'm actually in Arizona, we'll find the winery.
Yes. Yeah. Or we'll come see you.
Yes, come to Paso. Yes.
We love love Paso. We used to go more. Our friend was the cook at Artisan, the chef at Artisan. And
Oh,
then they
really?
closed Artisan. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, every time we talk about going to Paso, we're like, but there's no Artisan. He's got Kitchenette though. Kitchenette's great, but
Well,
anyway.
there is a lot going on now. That whole downtown area has boomed, and there's so many restaurants and so much going on down there now.
Yeah,
So
we'll have to.
come
We
back.
will make an effort to come by. It's on the list.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much. Have a great Wine Wednesday and the rest of the week.
Thank you. It's 5 o'clock here now, so I'm going to go crack open some bubbles.
I have to go to physical therapy. I don't think he'll appreciate it if I crack anything open before then, but there will be something cracked open after that.
I did that yesterday. Have a good one, okay? Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.